From the WXXI studios, this is Backstage Pass. The big phrase among foodies these days is localvore, getting your comestibles from farmers in your region. I'm Julia Figueres. On today's Backstage Pass, you'll hear the musical equivalent as Gibbs Main present us with an entire program of music by New York composers. They call it euphony, and you'll be among the first to hear it. This broadcast of Backstage Pass is made possible in part by a grant from the Gouvernet Arts Fund at Rochester Area Community Foundation, encouraging support of the arts. Keeping it close to home next on WXXI. Welcome to Backstage Pass. I'm Julia Figueres, and it's very nice to have in studio Gibbs Main. It was almost exactly 3 years ago to the day that the previous incarnation, Quartsemble, was in this studio. Now they're Gibbs Main, so let's say hello to the members and then get a history lesson, shall we? With us today, violinist Karine Stone.
Hi, Julia. It's great to be here.
Nice to have you here, Karine. Next to Karine is Sini Virtanen. Hi, Sini.
Hi, nice to be here.
Good to have you here. Diego Garcia is our cellist. Diego?
Hi, Julia. Nice to be back.
Good to have you back. We're playing the cello today, playing the double bass rather today. A new member, Eric, is it Polenic?
It is Polenic. Nice to be here, Julia. Thank you.
Good to have you here. And last but far from least, a substitute violist and a man of great gusto, Dana Hyogi. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Julia. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And joining us today as well in the studio is one of the represented composers, Carson Cooman. Hi, Carson.
Hello.
Great to have you here as well. So let's have a little history lesson of Gibbs Main and how you got to Gibbs Main. Karine?
Well, there's a lot in a name. And when we formed the group, we were a string quartet. And Quartsemble rose out of the fact that we like to collaborate a lot. And as a quartet, we collaborated. And probably about 8 years ago, it was about the second year we were playing, we did a collaboration with Madrigalia and with Roger Wilhelm. And we needed a bass, and so Galen McCormick played with us for that performance. And we enjoyed the bass so much that I thought, why doesn't everybody just play with bass all the time? And so we became a quintet. And then we had an itsy-bitsy little problem, which is that our name was 4 and we were 5, and people would scratch their heads and say, can they not count? And some people thought we were charming but not very mathematically inclined musicians. And some people said, oh, we know you as that, don't change. But eventually we decided we had gotten more serious and we had a mission that we were very committed to, and we really needed a name that didn't just reflect a number of players, but that reflected what we do. And Gibbs Main is that.
So Gibbs Main is where a lot of the music in Rochester meets. It's a very key place in the city of Rochester. You mentioned a mission. So Diego, talk to us a little bit about what the mission of Gibbs Main is.
Well, we're all about promoting new music, learning new musical styles for the group so we can also grow as a performing organization. And we also enjoy a lot doing programs for kids, which we call Quartsemble. And it is all about basically, reaching out to the kids in a very sophisticated and fun way. So sometimes we explain really abstract musical concepts, and we actually put those concepts into a musical style. Maybe we do music from South America, and we teach them about syncopation, and they get to snap their fingers to the sound of tango.
So why are kids important? And we have a lot of dedicated teachers in this room today. Dana, you're one. You teach at the Canac School. Mm-hmm. Why is it important to do a concert for kids like Quartsemble?
Oh my gosh. It is just, education is one of the most important things that we as a society and even as a species do. It's how we invest in the other people in our lives. And I think that when I think about what I valued so much about music when I was growing up is that it's something that you do. It's something that you can really just go out and do. And I remember putting a lot of investment into my instrument because it was just so simple that, my teacher says, do this and you'll get a better sound. And lo and behold, I got a better sound. And I think it's so valuable to teach kids how to put value in themselves and how to value what's already there. And educational concerts are a great way to help kids to discover what great, valuable things they already have.
You grew up in a very musical household, did you not?
I did. My dad is a jazz saxophonist, and my mom plays percussion, and my big sister took voice lessons for the longest time.
So you grew up in a musical household. Eric, what about a kid who does not grow up in a household like Dana's, where there isn't a mom at the drum kit playing away?
Yeah, it was quite different, actually. Believe it or not, my mom's actually tone deaf. So it's really funny hearing her sing, but I won't hold that against her. But, the great thing about parents is, they can be very supportive and take kids to places like our kids' concerts and different events. My grandparents took me to bluegrass concerts a lot growing up, and even though I wasn't exposed to a lot of music in the family, I did play the piano, and every night I was made to practice, and I really enjoyed that. Made sure we really got to the lessons on time, and that's one of the great things about it.
So how do you sell it to a parent? How do you sell Quartsemble when you put it out there, Karine?
Well, the great and the really important thing about Quartsemble is it's free. And we do a lot of work to raise money for those concerts, and there are a lot of fantastic people that support us. But the thing that a kid will get at Quartsemble that they wouldn't get at a different concert and that they might not get in a lesson is that they get the sense, number one, that classical music belongs to everyone. And I think they get a real awakening that the quote-unquote new music or classical music isn't maybe the stereotype that they think that it is. And what we really wanted to do was have every single kid who came to one of our concerts leave with their own instrument, get to play with us right away, because not everyone has the ability to get their kids to lessons, for a variety of reasons. And we wanted children to understand that the music could really belong to them and that they could take some ownership in it as an audience member, but also as a participant. And I think that really makes it special. So parents are more inclined to bring their kids, even if they don't have a musical background, because the child is going to come and get to do a lot of great activities. And if you're a little kid, you might need to go and touch a violin string, and we have an instrument petting zoo, or you might need to actually physically make your own drum that you can drum on to understand what somebody's doing. If you're just watching, it's not as much fun.
Our guests today are Gibss in Main, and they brought a whole lot of music with them to play for us. They have a new project called Euphony. It's actually in its second year. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. All of it is music written by New York State composers, and in this case, the New York State composer is the cellist of Gibss in Main, Diego Garcia, a suite of music in 4 movements called Danzas del Nuevo Mundo on Backstage Pass. Diego Garcia's Danza del Nuevo Mundo, ending with El Gato. This is Backstage Pass with Gibss Main, and our special guest, Carson Cooman, who is a composer and will be joining us shortly. Diego, you wrote that piece of music, and I thought perhaps you could tell us a little bit about putting together your dances of the new world.
Sure. Doing this project of writing these dances, it was a joy because basically it was a tribute to my Latin roots. I was basically grandfather by a lot of this music, along with Mahler, Brahms, Beethoven. But, you know, I think for me it was kind of time to say, okay, let's just kind of go back and remember music. Especially for me, the connection is music that was written for cultural reasons. For example, the danzón, all those rhythms come from Afro-Cuban rhythms, and basically it was music for worship that later on became dance music. It was incorporated into dance music. So, for example, that don king king gong, bum bam bum bum, all this stuff was basically, all those rhythms and loops were used for worshiping and in some African religion. Then I wanted to pay a tribute to Colombia and Venezuela with the second dance that is called Joropo Bombo. So Joropo is basically country music of the plains of Venezuela and Colombia. So you basically feel like you're playing the guitar, singing your heart out, and you have friends with you playing harp and maracas, and you're basically playing for a rodeo context. Not that I endorse that, but it's part of the culture. And the third piece, dance, is Choriño, Carioca. Choriño means to cry, however, is happy music, so you don't get too sad. Carioca is the word that we use to refer to people from Rio de Janeiro. And it has that like nice and lilty and happy sound to it. And the last one is El Gato, which is my tribute to my other musical grandfather, Astor Piazzolla, who secretly among musicians was nicknamed El Gato, which he hated it. But, you know, if people are choosing nicknames for you, it means that they like you and they respect you.
Do you miss your home? Do you miss where you grew up, Cali?
I do a lot. And because basically, especially my family and my friends, obviously, because they all enjoyed different types of music. And we always, when we got together and played at home, it was basically a huge jam session from, 6 p.m. until, 2 a.m. So we always are playing music at home. So I really miss that. And I play music with my parents, too. So I was lucky that way.
You have some new members, one of whom is also very far from home as well. Siini Virtanen, you're all the way from Finland.
Yeah.
The website is adorable. You have photos of each member of the group, both a kid's picture and you slightly grown up. And Siini, yours is fabulous. Little girl smiling with her violin. So how long were you playing that violin?
I started when I was 5. And I think this particular photo is me actually outside with 2 sticks, playing the sticks. So I actually liked so much practicing. So even when I was playing outside, I wanted to still do my violin thing, and I pretended to play violin outside too.
You studied at the Sibelius Academy, and you, which is a place that is filled with such history. There's such a deep sense of music in Finland. It's almost, a lot of it feels like it's the same kind of fiddling almost that you would hear in a bluegrass band. Do you fiddle as well as play the violin?
Me personally, no, but it's in our culture, yeah. The folk music is part of it.
So what's it like being so far from home?
It depends on the day. Sometimes it's very hard. I miss home sometimes very much, but I also have wonderful friends here, and American people are so welcoming that I always felt right away when I arrived, I felt very, very much home here too.
So why did you audition for Gibss Main?
It actually started as I filled in. I was a sub for a little bit, and then turned out now I'm here.
Actually, Siini is a really special violinist. She's fantastic, and you might notice The tricky thing about playing in a band like this is we have to play the same instrument together. Everybody else is, every man for himself. And it's tough to find two violinists that really work together as a team. And I was really lucky for years and years to play with Angel Ouyang, and it was so easy for us to play together. We got along well. We rarely argued. We really backed each other up, and we had very different approaches, but with the same goal. So it was a very good partnership. And when I started playing with Sini, I felt like, oh my goodness, this is so easy so quickly. And as we've been working on our CD this year, when I do the editing and I listen back, a lot of the times I have to listen twice to figure out which one of us is playing, because we've worked so much on matching our sounds. So she didn't really audition. She subbed, and I said, ooh, please stay. Please don't leave.
Our guests today are Gibss Main, and we are listening to music that is written entirely by New York composers. The next piece that we're going to hear is written by a New York composer who is very near and dear to WXXI. This is the Caravan Tone Poem, written by one of our favorite trombonists in the whole wide world, Chris Van Hoff. And it was originally premiered for Euphony 2001. And we'll be listening to this piece played for us today as we celebrate the upcoming Euphony 2012. Chris Van Hoff's Caravan Tone Poem with Gibss Main on Backstage Pass. Chris Van Hoff's Caravan Tone Poem, written for Gibss Main and premiered at Euphony 2001. Chris Van Hoff, of course, a former announcer here on WXXI and now getting his DMA at the University of Wisconsin. You're listening to Backstage Pass. Production of Backstage Pass is made possible in part by Glatley Pianoforte in Canandaigua, offering Kawai acoustic and digital pianos, and Rebuilt American Pianos, providing service and renovation for stage and studio on the web at glatleypiano.com. Love that piece of music. Love the great big musical. Right in the middle of it. This is a piece of music that was part of your Euphony 2001. So it's
2011.
2011.
Sorry.
So let's start with how that happened.
Well, actually, it was partially in talking to Chris and Diego and some different people that I decided to create this series. And we had been waiting on a commission from Judd Greenstein for a few years. And as we were playing at some of our Quartsemble concerts, a lot of people, especially young kids, kept asking me how come the music we played was written by people who were dead for so long. And I said, well, they're not all dead. I said, one of these songs was written by Diego. He's right here, you know. And I started realizing that for them, even if you give them a map and say, gee, this person lived here, and you can do Google Earth and show them 200 years ago and in Europe or South America, is not something that someone who's 5 relates to. It's just too far away. It's too distant. And so I thought, well, we should do a Quartsemble where we have all the composers come so they can actually see who wrote the music. And then I thought, you know, why aren't we just playing music from everybody who's in the state? Because between the amazing talent that comes from the Eastman School, Juilliard School, Manhattan, Cornell, Ithaca, to name only a few, there are a number of fantastic composers. The thing that I also heard from adults was, oh, new music. Oh, that's the music that sounds bad. Oh, classical music. That's the music that's boring. And I said, well, I beg to differ. And so I decided to put together a series that had all local talent, only composers who lived within the state, preferably people that we knew or had some kind of connection with, and only music that sounds gorgeous, that somebody that has never, ever been exposed to the quote-unquote classical style would enjoy. And a lot of people said, well, that's going to be really tough to do. But I tell you, it's really tough to narrow down what you're going to play.
One of the composers involved in Euphony, and this time around for Euphony 2012, sitting just to my right, is Carson Cooman. You're a Rochester boy originally?
I am.
And where did you study music?
I studied in college at Harvard and then at Carnegie Mellon. But I was here for my first 18 years.
Smart guy. You were a smart one. So Carson, as I noticed as you came in the door, you hadn't really met this band face to face. You're meeting them face to face basically for the first time today.
More or less. In their previous incarnation, they collaborated with Madrigalia on a concert that had a piece of mine that Roger Wilhelm had commissioned for Madrigalia. And it was through that Karine knew my work and then asked about a possible new piece for this year.
So tell me about the act of letting go. When you create a piece of music, then you have to walk away from it and you have to entrust it to these people. How do you do that, Carson?
Well, there's sort of no other choice. You have to finish it and send it off, and your mind is already working on the next project. This piece was finished in January, and since then I've had other things that I've had to work on, things that are due in the spring and performed in the summer and next fall. So then sort of the time comes a few months later to travel for the performance, and you're sort of brought back into the world of something you finished months ago. Sometimes you finish the piece a year or more before the performance happens. So your brain has had, I think, a little time to let go of it already because you've had to grab onto other things.
The piece is called In Beauty Walking. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the entire piece, which we will not hear today.
Right. The entire piece, it's really a work for solo, mezzo-soprano, vocalist, and string quintet. The movement that you'll hear today is the middle movement, which is for just the strings alone, because the mezzo is not here today. But the work as a whole is a setting of poems by Mary Austin, who was a naturalist and anthropologist in the early 20th century, studying particularly American Indian tribes in the Southwest. And she produced a great deal of writing in all forms, poems, plays, novels, that dealt with looking at subjects and the style of writing and language used in ceremonies and tribes in that area. And the texts for this piece are taken from a book she published in the 1920s called The American Rhythm, which was a series of both sort of very loose translations and original poems based on the writings of American Indians in the Mojave Desert.
Where did you find this?
Well, composers are always, I think, reading texts over time, and whenever one encounters something, you put it in a file for later. And this is, I don't remember how many years ago I encountered these poems, and I thought at some point the right project will come up where these poems are useful. And so I stuck them in a folder, and then when this came along, you sort of go through the folder and see if something works.
And something did
And
work.
something did.
So I'll tell you what, Carson. Let's sit back and listen to one piece of this called Rain Song. And at the end of it, you can tell us how they did.
Sure.
All right. Our guests today are Gibss Main with composer Carson Cooman. And we will listen to a brand new piece of music. This is Rain Song from In Beauty Walking, live from the Epstein Studio at WXXI. From In Beauty Walking, Carson Cooman, Rain Song. Carson Cooman wrote it, and it was commissioned by our guests who just played it, Gibss Main. It's all part of their Euphony 2012 series, and you heard it first here on Classical 91.5 and Backstage Pass. So how did they do, Carson?
Very well.
They did well. When you wrote this piece of music, can you hear what it's going to sound like in the end, or is that a bit of a surprise to you?
No, by this point, sort of once you've done it enough, you know sort of what to expect, and hopefully with each piece make fewer miscalculations than the one before it.
Who were your teachers?
I studied with Bernard Rands and Judith Weir.
What was the best musical lesson that they gave you as a composer?
I think it's a sense of sort of being aware at every moment of how a piece is going to unfold in time. And there's a lot of, I think personally, a lot of very self-indulgent composing that goes on at times. And you have to be aware that music is an art that takes place in time. And you're demanding 5 minutes or 20 minutes or 60 minutes or 1 minute, however long it is, of somebody's time to sit there and experience it. And you need to be aware of every moment in that, and that every moment is hopefully engaging in some way.
What was it about Carson Cooman's writing that drew Gibss Main to it, Diego?
Well, I think the original collaboration, just to understand that he had already a beautiful language. I think in general, music that appeals to me and appeals to us and appeals to the audience that I like. It's music that can see the romance, the story behind the harmonies, the story behind the melodies. And I think it was that, basically.
Also, just to jump in, Carson's music was it's deceptively simple, but it's incredibly well crafted, and we had all really admired that piece for a long time. So when we started looking, he was at the top of everybody's list.
Dana, it was mentioned by Karine that new music is often pushed away by listeners. They say it sounds awful. So how did we get to that point where new music, that is the attitude toward new music?
Well, I think that goes back, if you want a little history lesson, that goes back to the time of Mahler and of Schoenberg, when Mahler instituted all of these modern concert practices, such as demanding absolute silence from the audience and treating the performers with reverence. And he set up that separation between the audience and that performers. And I think that to a certain degree, we've been working to break down that giant wall between performers and audience members. And then what happened with Schoenberg and essentially with the 20th century is that people at the end of late Romanticism started drifting into a little bit more of an esoteric field of music. And in the 20th century, everyone just decided to go in every different direction. And I think that the biggest consequence of that is that it just made it really hard for most people to decipher what music was in the 20th century. So I think that when I hear someone say that they don't really like modern music, I kind of feel like that's saying that you don't really like that particular crayon, for example, from a box of crayons. Is that, well, there are lots of different crayons, and maybe you might like a different kind of a crayon. But I think that modern music is just there's just such a wide variety out there. I think it's really, especially with the Western classical tradition, it's really easy to hear one thing and say, oh, well, I guess I don't like modern music. But there's a lot more out there to it.
So how do you select your crayons, Carson, when you're writing your music? Which crayons are you looking for?
Well, I'm trying to write music that communicates directly and is hopefully uncluttered and is free of things that get in the way of it speaking, hopefully, to performers and listeners. And it's just a matter of I think, learning from each project and moving on to the next one and hopefully continuing to grow.
You have this whole passel of music from Euphony 2011 and the upcoming Euphony 2012. Do we get to hear this on a CD?
This is going to be on a CD. And actually, in 2012, we went one step further and said, wow, we really want to have a theme to all of the concerts that we do, whether it's a children's concert or an evening concert or a radio broadcast like this. And we decided to have a theme of nature or songs that relate to the earth. And so when we commissioned this piece, it was with that specifically in mind. And Carson and I had some different discussions about what we might use as a text. And I wanted him to really choose something he wanted to write. So I gave him a couple of different ideas, and I was really happy that he picked a nature theme. I thought that was fantastic. And this is going to be on a CD that will probably come out in June. We don't have a release date yet. We've got one more session to do, and then some editing and all the production. And it's called Terra Nova, and it includes Danzas, Diego's piece, It includes a new piece by Diego called Moon Currents. It includes In Beauty Walking and some other great stuff on there too. So it's going to be fantastic. And that project has really been an amazing thing for us to do as a group because all of the pieces were either commissioned by us or written for us. And so it was really people who knew us, what we did, how we played, and I've never done anything like it. It's been really a fantastic thing for us, and it's really helped us to grow as a group, I think, doing all of those sessions and working on minute details. It's been fantastic.
Gibss Main is our guest here on Backstage Pass. I actually got an email today from a group, and they said that they had a new CD coming out, but they weren't going to make it a CD. They were just going to send out these WAV files for us if we were so interested. So where are we going with the delivery of music? I'm actually going to toss this in your direction, Eric. Where are we going with the delivery of music beyond the concert hall?
Oh, that's one of the great things about technology is, we have so much music out there. Everyone can fill in a niche, and it's fantastic, and it's so accessible now. I see it sort of going in all different directions. There are still those out there that love their LPs and love the artwork, and I'm one of those people, and I love looking at the artwork and seeing the whole production of it. To be honest, for us having a CD here, I couldn't imagine just putting it online because I sort of need that physical thing that I did right there. But that said, it's so easy. I have so many songs on my computer that I don't have CDs for, and they're just on my computer because they were downloaded. And it's a lot of accessibility like that. And the great thing about that is you can sort of pick and choose. It allows you to have a very wide array of songs to listen to.
Well, we're going to pick and choose a little more music on Backstage Pass. Gibss Main are our guests today, along with composer Carson Cooman. And we have another piece of music. This time it is El Gato, as we are told, Astor Piazzolla's Primavera Porteña, as arranged by the Gibss Main cellist Diego Garcia. This is Backstage Pass. little touch of spring in the air with the Primavera Porteña by Astor Piazzolla, arranged by cellist Diego Garcia, who is a member of our guests today on Backstage Pass, Gibss Main. Do you have to have permission to arrange a piece of music, or can you just do it, Diego?
You mean permission from the composer himself?
Or the composer's estate?
I just do it, and then we deal with the copyright issues if we want to record them and we want to perform their music. But I just go ahead and, I mean, basically one of the greatest things to be part of this group is that when I'm actually writing music, I just could think about the individual players. And so that's how I usually tackle it. But
we do really respect those property issues, though, because we know that that's somebody's creative work. And the first CD that we recorded, we took a lot of time, and I had no idea how much time it was going to be to find all the mechanical licenses and buy them so that we could use all the various arrangements that Diego had done. So
now you do have 3 members who are newish in the band, as it were, and we've been talking about kids. One of the members in the band was a kid at the University of Rochester and sang in the Yellow Jackets, the ever huge Yellow Jackets. So it's kind of nice that your last name is Hughie, Dana. You wore the jacket.
I did. I wore the Yellow Jacket, and I sang with them for 2 years, and it was a blast.
Well, we were talking about kids. Did you have a chance to go and sing with the kids and for the kids in Kenya?
Yes, I did. I sang with them for between 2009 and 2011, and actually the Kenya tour was the last thing that I did with them. We went over to Kenya as a part of just an outreach deal. They actually have, over here, we do a cappella, which is what the Yellow Jackets do. It's all voices. We imitate all kinds of different instruments, all with our voices and with our mouths and whatnot. And over here, we do it because it's fun. But over there, they do it because they have no money for instruments and whatnot. So it's a really powerful form of outreach over there, and it's really lifted lots of children.
I understand that you actually play more than viola. I hear you're a vocal percussionist. Were you the beatboxer for them?
Strictly speaking, no. In my midway through my first year, they took a very talented beatboxer and had and made him the dedicated beatboxer for the group. But I did do a little bit of beatboxing before he got there.
You have to give us a piece of it.
Okay, hold on. I have to get my viola out of my hands for this. Safety first.
Ladies and gentlemen,
amazing.
This is Backstage Pass, and again, another one of our the newer members of the group is Eric Polenic, and you actually teach the other side of the age spectrum. You work with the New Horizons group.
Yeah, I do. That's a lot of fun. I love those guys. It is so neat to see people who had such amazing careers and still retire and then be so talented to do something else. It's very inspiring for me, and I think the message is it's never too late to learn. And for someone who started playing the bass when they were age 17, and here these guys started when they were 65.
You were a late starter.
Oh yeah, very late starter.
And so, is there a difference between teaching and working with kids and teaching and working with somebody in the New Horizons band?
It's almost the same thing. You just react a little bit differently to what they do. Kids, they're up for anything, and they don't have any pretension. They're game. They just want to go ahead and do it. And then I find with the adults, it's a little bit more knowledge based. They want to sort of understand the mechanics, and the challenge for them is to really get outside of their head.
Sini, you're the other new member. We talked to you a little bit earlier. I wanted to know, since you studied in Finland at the Sibelius Academy, and then you came here, you're getting your DMA at the Eastman School of Music. Is there a significant difference in how what you do as a violinist is taught from one country to another?
You mean in the actual violin school?
Yeah, but the style of teaching and what is taught.
Well, I guess there's some national differences, but also these days it's very international field, whole music field. So my teacher here is Russian, so it's kind of close by my neighborhood.
Why did you choose to come here?
Actually, it's mainly because of my teacher, Professor Koppelman. I met him at a music festival, and I really wanted to study with him. And then, after a couple of years of arranging stuff and of course auditioning, I finally got here.
Well, I look at Eric, I look at Dana. Dana has done the singing, and he's really, done all kinds of different musical things. And Eric is a bluegrass kind of guy and has gone to concerts. You are a classical kind of gal, and here you are in this group that's really embracing rhythms and styles and things that are not quite completely classical. How does that feel to you?
It has been a great pleasure to come into this group, and exactly for this reason that I get exposed to different style of music, which of course I was a little bit familiar with. Like I heard this type of music before, but I really didn't play before.
Can anybody be in a group? Like, can anybody be in Gibss Main?
You know what? I don't think so. Although I'll say that we don't discriminate against those who are classically trained. It's really it's not for anyone because we do so many different things. We have to embrace a lot of different styles of music, and we are very democratic about how we work. So, we have not always had the same chemistry with all members. This particular group of people is a very happy and democratic group, and we have a fantastic time. We all contribute, but it's a certain vibe.
We're democratic, but I'm the one who gives orders here.
Well, actually, I'm the one who gives orders here, and my orders say is that it is time for us to go. I want to thank you very much for coming in today and playing for us. The group is Gibss Main, and of course, our composer, Carson Cooman, on Backstage Pass. Our executive producer is Gene Fisher. Today's director is Ruth Finney. Our senior audio technician is Andrew Croucher with help from Jill Cookman, and our video stream was coordinated by Jeff Beach and Joy Parker. Broadcast of Backstage Pass is made possible in part by a grant from the Gouverneur Arts Fund at Rochester Area Community Foundation, encouraging support of the arts. I'm your producer and host, Julia Figueres, with many thanks again to Gibss Main and Carson Cooman. Backstage Pass is a production of WXXI Public Broadcasting.